Hello again, David Creel. It's right at 2 o'clock, so we go ahead and get started because your time's valuable and I like starting on time. Welcome to the webinar where we're going to demolish the 4 reasons why you don't already have what you want. I'm grateful you're here. Welcome. This is a training for action takers and not action talkers, or action talkers that want to become action takers. And I'll tell you the difference. An action taker, you guessed it, takes action. Action talkers only talk about taking action. And there's a big difference there. Now, I live in Deer Park, Texas, which is southeast of Houston, about 20-ish minutes, depending on traffic and your right foot. I own 2 businesses. I have a pressure washing business since 2015, and I'm a coach. So I was in class 2 of Choose to Win Ziglar coaching. I was in class 1 of See You at the Top. I also received my Ziglar Master Coach designation, and I was actually the first in the world with all 3. And a few weeks ago, I attended Ziglar Legacy certification. And now I'm ZLC too, Ziglar Legacy certified, speaker, trainer, and a coach. Now we're going to create something spectacular today. And I know your time's valuable, so it's okay with you. We're going to get right into this. Now, let me start with this. There's 2 options. Do you prefer setting a goal or solving problems, or problem solving, whichever? If you would, put your answer in the chat here. Do you like solving problems or problem solving? Same thing. Or do you like goal setting? Now, here's the deal. I like solving problems. But whether you like solving problems or problem solving, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing. Or setting goals. Here's a secret. It's the exact same process. So whichever one makes you sleep better at night is the one you can go with. It's the exact same process we're going to discuss today. So further, for the remainder of this webinar, let's say, even though we've established that problem solving or solving problems, whichever one you prefer, and goal setting is the exact same thing. It's just the language is different. But going forward in this webinar, let's just go with goal setting. But again, goal setting or problem solving / solving problems is the exact same. So let me ask you this. If you see me looking down, I'm not distracted or falling asleep. I'm reading my notes, and I got some notes on my screen as well. So let me ask you this. If setting goals is so beneficial, which every study ever has proven that it is, why do you think so many of us don't do it consistently? Something to think about. You know, Jim Rohn said this. Well, let me go back here. I think it's easy to set goals or to solve problems, but like I said, goal setting for the rest of the webinar, it's easy to do. But here's the thing. Jim Rohn said, what's easy to do is also easy not to do. So today we're going to talk about the 4 main reasons why you don't set goals. Number 1 reason, The number one reason by a lot, fear. Not fear like a lion's chasing me, but more subtle fears. It could be a fear of failure. You know, what if you set the goal and you don't hit it? Oh no, failure. But as Zig Ziglar said, failure is an event. It's not a person. What if you set a goal that's just too high? You know, what if you want to make an extra $50,000 next year and you fall a little bit short and you only make 43? Would you be a failure? Because what if your original goal was 25 and you made 17? You're like, no, I can make 50. Well, if you make 50 and you only make 43, you still got a $43,000 increase, which is pretty good. Now, a lot of people fear, like say public speaking. Oh, this just reminded me. This is as close as I'm going to get to a Halloween outfit. It is Halloween today. Happy Halloween. Look, it's close I'm going to get to a Halloween outfit. So there you go. That just popped in my head. Okay, so most people fear public speaking. But see, here's the deal about public speaking. You speak in public all the time. You go to a restaurant and the waiter or waitress comes up and says, what would you like to eat? And you speak out loud to the waiter or waitress, and it's in public, and you're speaking in public. And people do it all day, every day. It's no big deal. Another fear of rejection. See, because people don't like hearing the word no. Sorry, they don't. But here's the thing, though. A lot of people don't like telling people no either, because they'll set aside their own agenda to make sure that they don't tell anyone else no either. You know, fear of rejection. What will others think of me if I set this lofty goal? Another fear of success. Uh-oh, getting deep. Fear of success. Because what if you hit the goal? What if you set the goal and you hit the goal? Uh-oh, here we go. Imposter syndrome. It's one of the new buzzwords. Imposter syndrome. What will others expect of me? What will I expect of myself? Do I belong here? Maybe you feel like a wiener in a steakhouse. I think it was Einstein that said, if you find yourself to be the smartest person in the room, you need to find a new room. Something to think on. Now, fear can be thought of this way: false evidence appearing real. For example, say I put a coat on and I walked into the bank and I put my finger like this in my jacket pocket. And I tell everybody to stick their hands up because they're getting robbed. Well, the tellers would probably be a little frightened because they're the ones with the money. but I wouldn't actually, I mean, I'd still be arrested. But to point my finger at somebody, but the evidence would appear that somebody's getting shot. I just have my finger. So fear. So the question is, when's the last time you let fear stop you from getting what you want or going after what you want or doing what you want to do because of fear? The thing to ask yourself about that is there actually something to be afraid of? You know, like if you're afraid of getting trampled by a rhino as soon as you walk out your front door, and you live in a high-rise condo in New York or LA or Kansas City or wherever, and I guess it's possible that you could get trampled by a rhino, but it's pretty small chance. So, but oftentimes we let fear paralyze us and we don't do anything. So the number one reason, fear. Other fear of the unknown. What if? Oh, there's a whole bunch of fears. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of success, fear of the unknown, fear of unmet expectations, all kinds of stuff. Remember, false evidence appearing real. Number two, the silver medalist, poor self-image. We don't see ourselves as worthy of achieving goals. But in order to do that, we have to change the picture we have of ourselves. Zig Ziglar said this: you got to be before you can do, and do before you can have. Meaning, you have to be the right person in your thoughts, in your actions, in your attitudes, and how you treat other people. In order to do the right things so you can have what you want. You got to be before you can do, and do before you can have. Now, one of the keys of a poor self-image is you lack confidence in yourself. So I've heard it said this way: the key to self-confidence is keeping the promises you make to yourself. Uh-oh, here we go. So let's give you an example. Let's say you go to bed tonight and you set your alarm clock. It's not actually it's actually called an opportunity clock, but that's a different story. You set your clock to wake up at 6 a.m. tomorrow. Now, setting your clock you can control. When you wake up in the morning, you don't control. That's beyond your control. But let's assume that you set your alarm for 6 a.m., your clock to get up at 6 a.m., and you do wake up tomorrow. If you set your alarm to get up at 6, you had an intention to get up at 6. So my question would be, did you get up? Or did you let yourself slip due to whatever reason? You stayed up too late watching the Astros, hopefully beat the Phillies. You stayed up reading, binging Netflix, whatever. But then your self-esteem takes a little hit because you didn't keep the promise you made to yourself. So let me give you a little hint for that. Most people play on this as they're falling asleep. They're on their phone. But this, if this is right by you, it's no problem. You just roll over, you hit the snooze button, no big deal. But it is a big deal because that's not keeping the promises you make to yourself. And I heard it said this way: if you're not a morning person and you don't like waking up or getting up early or whatever, all the snooze button does is allow you to wake up more than once. Huh. As Jim Rohn said, isn't that good information? Think about it. If you were going to wake up at 6 and you get up at 6, then you hit the snooze button, then you're going to get up at 6:08. You're going to hit the snooze button, you can get up at 6:16. Then you hit the snooze button, and now it's 6:24. And now you're 24 minutes behind schedule because you had to get up at 6 for a reason, or you just slept until you woke up. Well, most people sleep till they wake up anyway, but you know what I'm saying, without an alarm. So here's a hint for your alarm. Don't use this. Make it your goal to not get on this for about the first 30 minutes of the day, at least, maybe an hour. Because as soon as you pick this up, you're in reaction mode. You're reacting to life, email, text, social media, whatever. But if you use the first 30 or 45 minutes or an hour to fill your own cup up, then you can pour from a full cup and help others. So my tip for this is go buy an actual clock, not your phone, a clock, like an old school clock, and put it across the room. That way, you can't just accidentally hit the snooze button. Because if you have to walk, 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 steps to the other side of the room to go turn it off, because that phone, that alarm, it ain't going off until you get up. But then once you've gotten up and you walk and taken, the 5, 10, 15, 20 steps, whatever it is, you turn it off. Now you got to make a choice. Are you going to go back in bed? Or are you going to get up? You're already up anyway. You might as well just stay up. So something to think about. Number 3, first one. Number one reason people don't already have what they want: fear. Number 2, silver medalist, poor self-image. Number 3, bronze medalist. You've never been sold. The goal setting is kind of like having a GPS. You got to know where you are and where you want to go. And the most expensive GPS in the whole world only needs those 2 things: where you are and where you want to go. It's like going to the grocery store when you don't have a list. Recipe for disaster. Because when you don't have a list and you're hungry, because now everything looks good. When you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And when you're hungry, everything looks like, oh, this needs to go in my stomach. So think about this. I'm sure at least once in your life you've been on vacation. Have you ever noticed the day before vacation? Like, say you're going on Wednesday on vacation, so what would be tomorrow, because today's Monday. The day before vacation, I bet you the night before, the day before vacation, I bet you got a game plan together. And I bet you plan to maybe get to work a little bit early, because come 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock or whenever you're getting out, you're going on vacation and you got to have everything wrapped up. So you may get to work a little bit early and you're focused. You're getting more work done than you normally do in a week by lunch, because you've got a goal. You're going out of town or wherever. Have you noticed on those days too, whenever that one coworker who always has nothing to do and that always wants to do it with you? You notice that? People with nothing to do always want to do it with you. You ever notice that? But whenever they come to your office, hey, you got 5 minutes? No, sir, I really don't, John. I really don't, John. I've got stuff to do today. Okay, then he or she'll go somewhere else. Or if you notice that maybe on that day, especially the day before vacation, maybe you don't go to the water cooler and talk about the game or the latest show or whatever, because you're focused. You got stuff to do. Now, let me tell you some stories. We got the gold medalist, silver medalist, and the bronze medalist. So let me tell you some stories. Let's go back to fear for a second. Let me tell you about one of my previous clients named Jane. Jane has 4 jobs and a ranch. It's her family ranch. It's her ranch. So obviously she's busy. There's no question about it. And she wanted to ask her boss for a raise. And frankly, she needed to. She was grossly underpaid. I said, so why don't you ask? She said, I can't ask. I said, why not? She goes, they're going to say no. I said, how do you know? She goes, I just know it's these kind of people. And I said, okay, so what if you do ask? And they do say no. She goes, well, along with saying no, they'll probably fire me on the spot and find some kind of criminal mischief that's made up, and they'll probably throw me in jail. I said, really? So that sounds pretty serious. I said, you really think that's going to happen? She goes, no, but it's probably going to happen. They're definitely going to say no. I said, okay. I said, well, let's say that's true. What if they do say no? She goes, well, I guess I'll just be okay. Awesome. I said, what if they say yes? She goes, might be doing better. Awesome. I said, so either way you look at it, you're going to be okay. And she goes, yeah. I said, so then why don't you ask? She goes, I just can't do it. I said, no, you can do it. The question though is, will you? Will you do it? That's the question. So the date was set. She was going to go ask for the raise like 3 days later. I said, I want you to call me before you go in there because I'm going to pump you up because you're worth it and you deserve it. So go in there and ask. So long story short, she calls me. I talk her up. Not only did she ask, and she did not get fired and escorted out of the building, banned for life. They said yes. 24% pay increase. Like that. Simply because she asked. How about that? Another story about the silver medalist reason. Poor self-image. Again, let's go with Jane. Different Jane than the first Jane, but here we go. Jane had a problem because she didn't have a morning routine. And she wanted one. So after we talked, I said, what would you like to do? She said, I'd like to wake up at 6 and I'd like to do this, this. Perfect. How long would that take? She said, I think about 45 minutes. I said, awesome. I said, when do you have to go to work? She said, 2 hours after I get up. I said, okay, so it shouldn't be a problem to do it 45 minutes of a routine and then shower and get dressed and then get out the door and be up to work on time. She goes, it's absolutely no problem. Perfect. So let me come out of that story and say something about Seinfeld because it relates to this story. Seinfeld, he's prolific at writing jokes. Somebody asked him, what's your secret to success? And he said, every single day without fail, I write one joke every day. And I've got a big wall calendar, and every single time I write a joke, I put a big red X on the calendar. And then after you start seeing a bunch of X's, you don't want to break the streak. So I keep writing a joke, He said he's been doing it for years, for decades maybe. So I told Jane that same thing, that exact same story. She goes, I have one of those right now. I'm looking at one of those calendars. I said, perfect. Would you like to start using it? She goes, yeah, but I don't like red. Okay. So what color do you want to use? She goes, pink. Perfect. Pink X's work just as good as red X's, or blue or green or whatever, purple. So now she's probably 3 weeks in, 3.5 weeks in. She said she feels like a completely different person. Her confidence gone up. She's asking for more of what she wants. And she's like, I've got a whole new world, a whole new perspective on life, just because she changed the mental image, the mental picture she had of herself. Something to think about. But see, she knew what she wanted. All these stories I'm going to tell you, they knew what they wanted. Let me tell you a story about the bronze medalist. Never been sold. This is not going to be from Jane. This is going to be from John. John had what we call quality problems. He had a good marriage, good family relationships, had a great job, traveled a lot, but he had a great job. But John had a little bit of a problem. See, John made great money. Well, from where I come from, great money. He was making, after bonuses and his salary and stuff, because he was in sales, he was making roughly $30,000 a month, which from where I come from, that's good money. Or from where you come from, that may not be good money. That may be a drop in the bucket. From where I come from, that's good money. But the problem is, during our time working together a couple of years ago, it came out that he was spending 32 grand a month, which is known as a problem. Making 30, bringing home 30, and spending 32. No good. So I sold him on this some kind of stuff like we're talking about here. I said, what do you want? He said, I want to pay my house off and I want to get out of debt. Perfect. So after simply paying attention to where his money was going, he said his goal would be like 3.5 years to get all this stuff paid for. Well, after I looked at it and we kind of went through this process that we're talking about here, we got it down to where it was 9 months and literally thousands of dollars saved in interest simply by paying attention. Turned out he had $2,000 a month that he was going to subscriptions that he never even used. Canceled those. Got a bonus, paid off his truck. Paid cash for a pool before the pool was even started. And he's well on his way to paying his house off. He had some other stuff come up. He may not hit it exactly at 9 months, but conservatively, it's 2 years earlier than it's going to be. His house will be paid off, everything, simply by paying attention. And he was sold on the benefits of it because in our time working together, he paid off about $75,000 worth of debt in 4 months, which is pretty good. Now, the fourth reason, just missed the medal stand. Gold medalist, fear. Silver medalist, poor self-image. Bronze medalist, never been sold. Fourth medalist, just missed the medal stand. You don't know how. You don't know how to properly set goals or problem solve or solve problems. So after what we're going to talk about here in about 15 or 20 minutes, that won't be a problem anymore. So let me tell you about another one of my clients. Jane again. Not first Jane, not second Jane, different Jane. You ever felt overwhelmed where there's so much stuff to do that you did nothing because you were paralyzed? This story's for you. Oh, by the way, if you've ever been overwhelmed, you know what that makes you? Normal. Yep, normal. Everyone deals with it to some degree. Let me tell you about Jane. Jane lived in an apartment complex. And Jane was going to move from one apartment to a different apartment in the same complex. She was going from the 3rd floor to the 1st floor or something. She had all of her boxes packed up. She was ready to go. And for whatever reason, I don't remember the reason, it doesn't really matter, the move fell through. The apartment she was going to be in, that she stayed in, and the one she was moving to, the deal fell through. So then she was stuck. She told me, she goes, I feel so overwhelmed with these boxes that I'm just looking at these these filled up boxes. And I said, do you actually need the boxes to be unpacked? Because I've said eventually going to move again. She goes, I don't need all the boxes to be unpacked. I need one thing out of one of the boxes, because it was one of her income streams. And it was something small. It was like the size of this. It was real small. I said, okay. I said, which box do you think it's in? She goes, I don't know. I said, I know you don't know. I said, so just pick one. Which one do you like the best, or the smallest, or the biggest, or whichever one, whichever. She goes, well, if I had to guess, I said, well, of course you're having to guess. You don't know which box it's in, so you're guessing. She goes, okay. She goes, I think it's that one right there. I said, perfect. I said, so why don't you just open that box and see? She goes, yeah, but I got 16. I said, no, you don't have 16. I said, you only have one box. Because I said, you can't get to box 4 until you get through box 1. So what if that thing you're looking for is in box 1? I said, what would you do with the rest of the box? She goes, the rest of the box could sit in the box. The rest of the stuff could sit in the boxes because I don't really care. I said, perfect. I said, so how would it change things for you if you thought about, I didn't have 16 boxes, I only have one box? And she goes, I've never even thought about it that way. I said, awesome. I said, so when would you like to pick one box and start on it? She goes, as soon as we get done. I said, perfect. I heard back a couple of days later. I said, how many boxes did you have to go through? I said, hopefully you don't have to go through 16. She goes, I found it in the 4th or 5th box. I said, awesome. I said, what'd you do with the rest of the boxes? She goes, the stuff still sitting in the box. I didn't care about that. Perfect. But she didn't know how. She knew how, but she was blocked because you can't open 16 boxes at the same time. You can only open one. So they chunked it down. So let me tell you another story about that. This isn't Jane. This is about the Navy SEALs. Most people are familiar with the Navy SEALs. They have a thing called Hell Week where they basically get killed. Basically. people that make it through, which is not me, but the people who have made it through, said the reason that how they got through was when they got woken up on Monday morning, they weren't thinking about dinner on Friday because it'd be too overwhelming. It's too much. So whenever they woke up, all they did was try to make it to breakfast on Monday. Then after breakfast, they try to make it to lunch on Monday. And then after that, they try to make it to dinner on Monday. And then after dinner, because they knew they had to get 3 meals a day, after dinner on Monday, their sole focus in life was trying to make it to breakfast on Tuesday. And continue that for the rest of just try to get to the very next meal. So like with the box story from Jane, what's the smallest possible step you can take? Then you won't get overwhelmed. You know, if you're going to write a list of people, the smallest possible step might be, I'm going to find something to write with. And the next possible smallest step is I'm going to find something to write on. And the next smallest possible step, I'm going to number the pages 1 to 10. I mean, number my lines 1 to 10. Then I'm going to fill out number 1. I'm going to fill out number 2 all the way to 10. Then I'm going to call number 1. Then I'm going to call number 2. So then you can't be overwhelmed because you're only doing the smallest possible step. Let me tell you another example about don't know how. This is from my friend Steve. Steve was married in 2004. Him and his wife both wanted a pool. Fast forward to 2018. So they've been married 14 years. Still no pool. It was on their list, but it was so far down the list, it wasn't in the realm of possibility. And after a powerful coaching conversation, Steve was asked one of my favorite all-time questions. What do you want? And the normal stuff came about, you know, peace, happiness, more money, whatever. But a pool was still on the bottom on the list, but it was on the very, very bottom. But through some powerfully simplistic questions, the contract for a new pool was signed in 10 days. Anyone want to guess what one of the questions was after what do you want? Why don't you already have it? Why don't you already have it? 6 words. The problem was Steve and his wife never actually found out how much the pool would cost. They always just thought it's out of their budget. But after they did some research and found out, that's how they got a pool contract signed in 10 days because it was very much in their budget. So let me ask you, what do you want? Hint, most people don't have a clue. Newsflash. I guarantee if you walk down your street of whatever town you live in and you asked 100 people, what do you want? I bet you wouldn't get a solid answer from 5 people. Now me, I know what I want. I want one of these. A Nissan GTR. Not exactly like this because the one I want, I don't have. But I want it just like this. And I want it to be flat white with black rims. That's what I want. Now, what does this run? A real one, obviously. 120 grand, give or take. That's what I want. Because I believe this. If you don't know what you want, you have to settle for what you get. So again, the 4 reasons why you don't already have what you want. Number 1, fear. Number 2, poor self-image. Number 3, you've never been sold. And number 4, you don't know how. Can you relate to any of these? Now, here's the reality of the situation. Developing this goals program might not be easy, but the effort is worth it. Bad news. This is going to take time. To properly set your goals, it may take as much as 10 hours. The good news is once you develop a goals program, you'll find an extra 4 to 10 hours a week for the rest of your life. So let's say it takes you the full 10 hours to properly set your goals. Even if it saves you 4 hours a week, after 3 weeks, you're already starting to see the benefit. And here's the deal. Once you learn how to set a goal in any of the areas of life, mental, spiritual, physical, family, financial, personal, career, you can also set goals in different areas as well. And if you're going to end up with a balanced life, you're going to have to plan and prepare for it. So as you sit here with me, you've probably attempted or written down a goal list at some point, at least once before. And it may even been, I'm going to write out a grocery list. That's a goal list that you're going in to get this. So my question for you is, what do you think the benefits of us working together on creating these goals would be? And bringing them from your wish list to your reality list. Judging by what some of my previous customers have said, this is what you'll get. You'll be held accountable. One thing about me is my sympathy meter is it's not very high on the scale, but my empathy meter is off the charts. So excuses don't really fly around here. You would not be able to stay inside your excuses or justifications for why you aren't doing anything, because we're going to correct that. You're going to have a well-structured plan. Almost all of it's going to come straight out of this book right here. And then as your plan gets moving, you'll be able to course correct, because you're not going to be the same person at the beginning of this as you will be at the end. You'll be a changed person. Now, finally, I've got 2 stories to illustrate the difference between intention and commitment. There's 4 frogs sitting on a log. 4 of them decide to jump off. How many are still sitting on the log? All 4. Notice I didn't say they jumped off. They decided to jump off. So they talked about jumping off. They said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Then they never did it. Commitment versus intention. If I said they jumped off the log, 4 frogs decided to jump off the log and jumped off, that's commitment. But if they just decided to jump off the log They had intentions to jump off, but they didn't actually jump off. Now, this one I'm going to read straight off my notes, so bear with me. In 1974, a 24-year-old Frenchman named Philippe Petit walked a high wire illegally rigged between the Twin Towers of New York's World Trade Center. Everyone held their breath as he stepped down because the towers were 1,350 foot above the ground, which is 4.5 football fields tall. There was swaying that morning because of the wind. The rain was beginning to fall, and it made the wire between the towers wet and slippery. But he stood there for a moment, took a deep breath, and then he stepped out onto the wire. The night before, his team had shot an arrow across the 200-foot gap between the towers and pulled across a 450-pound steel cable. He used a custom-made 26-foot-long balancing pole. That morning, he performed for 45 minutes. He made 8 passes back and forth along the wire, during which time he walked, danced, and even laid down on the wire, and even saluted the workers below from a kneeling position. Office workers, construction crews, and policemen cheered him on. As he climbed back onto the building, he was arrested by the police. Although the charges were later dropped in exchange for doing a free show for some kids in Central Park. A few years later, author Alan Weiss attended a presentation of the movie Man on Wire. Petit was there and took some questions. Someone asked him, "What's the most difficult part of this? Is it the psychological preparation of overcoming your fear of death?" The reply was fascinating. It's the second step, not the first step. With your first step, you still have one foot anchored and supported by something solid. But with the second step, you have to shift your center of gravity so your entire body is no longer supported by something solid. Now, this isn't true for you and me, because the mistake many of us make is to think that we will fail if we take the second step. You'll only fail if you never take the second step. So tell me, where are you still hanging on? And what could you do to take your second step and make it a tiny step to take? The smallest possible step you could take. Because your next step will only become clear in that very next moment. So you're on the first step right now. You're here with me. And like I said, I'm grateful for your time. But will you take the second step? You know, if you're on that wire and here's the Twin Tower and your foot's on this and you step on this, you can always just back up. But once you take the second step, you're officially committed. So, are you willing to take the smallest possible step? The question is not, can you do this? This is not rocket science. The real question, though, is, will you do this? Are you ready to commit? Now, I created something for us. It's going to start quickly. So let me screen share here. Okay, here's what we have. Sprint 2022. You didn't know this, January 1st is 58 days away. Now, I don't know if you're like me, but I'm fairly certain The College Football National Championship, which was January 8th or 9th or 10th of 2022, I'm fairly certain was last week. Okay, so January 1 is going to be here basically tomorrow. It's going to be here before we know it. It's Halloween today. A month from now is Thanksgiving, then it's Christmas, then it's New Year's. So here's what I put together for us. All the calls will be recorded. We're going to start at 7 p.m. Central for an hour on Zoom. It's going to start Monday, 11/7. That's a week from today. It starts. B. Remember, you got to be before you can do and do before you can have. Monday, 11/14, Q&A and coaching. Monday, 11/28, do. Monday, 12/5, Q&A and coaching. Monday, 12/12, have. Monday, 12/9, surprise. And there's that quotation, actually. You got to be before you can do and do before you can have. There will be homework every single class. I'm going to show up empty, open, honest, vulnerable, and curious. And I expect you to do the same. And yes, there will be a recording, but it's better if you leave your camera on, because then you can be accountable and be present to the conversation. Where you don't have your camera off, you could be doing laundry and watching TV or whatever. But if your camera's on, you're present. Now, according to Inc.com, most New Year's resolutions end January 19th. Not even 3 weeks. Because people love New Year's resolutions until the pain sets in. Then they quit. But as Zig Ziglar said, New Year's resolutions are nothing more than New Year's confessions. I confess I got to stop smoking. I confess I got to stop drinking. I confess I got to lose some weight. I confess I got to get a better job, whatever. So in addition to these 6 calls, there's going to be a bonus call on 116 so that we can not have you become a statistic where your New Year's resolutions or goals or confessions, whatever you want to go with, is going to continue working. Now, the investment. 3 payment options. Number 1, $497 one time. You're done. $497, you're done. 6 calls plus a bonus call. And for the people that sign up, you're also going to get a one-on-one call with me, which I'm calling a battle plan call, so we can narrow down really what you want. That alone is a $350 investment, a $350 payment. So the whole course is $497. You get 7 group calls and one-on-one with me. The one-on-one with me is $350 by itself. 2 payments of $265. 3 payments of $185. Now, due to the response from the webinar I did last week, I decided to come up with another one too. So there's 4 payment options. If you have a friend that wants to go with you through this, then each of you will pay $400. So that's a $97 savings per person. So you're in $400. One time you're done. If you want a friend that come along with you, another $400 for them, $800. Because then you have built-in accountability. You'll have somebody who's on the same page with you where they can hold you accountable and you can hold them accountable, which is one of the reasons why accountability is so important. That's one of the reasons why Weight Watchers is so popular. Do they have the best program? Probably not. Do they have the best food? Probably not. But what they do have is accountability. because every Tuesday night or Wednesday morning or Friday afternoon or whenever your class is, you know you got to get on that scale, and the numbers don't lie. You can say, oh, all I've had is liquids and 2 Ritz crackers a day for the last week. But if you put on 9 pounds, something doesn't add up here. You've been killing triple cheeseburgers. So bring a buddy with you. Sign up and bring a buddy with you, because then you, like I said, you have built-in accountability. And get yourself a little break on the investment. So that's what I have for you. Again, the first call is a week from today. A week from today and 4, 5, 6, 7, 4 hours and 4 minutes away is the first call. So are you in? Do you want to do this? That's all I have for you today. We're gonna start off 2023 with a bang, and I want you to be there. So thanks for joining me today. You'll have a great one. Tell all your friends. And if you're interested or you have any questions at all that you don't want to put in the chat or put out here in front of the world, message me and we'll talk. Okay, y'all have a great one.